Well, that'll get the blood going, won't it?
I'm ready to talk now.
Everybody was just saying earlier how damn tired they are. All you need is some big house music right there to kind of keep you going there. All right, before we get started there, Blake, give us a little sound check.
Yeah, how's this? Any better?
Nah, it's all, just static, crackly.
I think it's time for a new mic.
Okay, I'll ship you a new microphone.
No, I can get a new microphone.
Nah, I don't trust you. I'll send you a new one.
You don't think I can take a picture, compare it to what's on Amazon? And, is that any better?
Kenny.
Yeah, that'll work. Just go ahead and remove the microphone out of your face because you don't really need it. All it does
I want it for effect for the people that see me. They think like, oh, that guy's real smart. He has his own mic.
He knows the fuck he's going, doesn't he?
Yeah, most people won't know.
Jeez.
That's okay.
Oh man.
You're supposed to be rough with your microphones or something.
I swear to God, it's the it's the AirPods, Blake. I don't think they direct. I think they just interfere somehow. Like next time, hardline in your head.
Should I try that real quick? I've got hardline.
No. But
don't try anything.
It's okay.
Next time,
We've got another 15 minutes, right? We've got.
I'm back to fading.
All right.
Hold on, turn the house music back on.
Yeah, more techno.
Yeah.
All right,
Let's
so let's do it. I hope everybody on the chat sees we've got another a face that you haven't seen in a while on here. So I'm excited to kind of get this when we get on here. So exciting to see this happen. So we'll go ahead and get started. I know, Eric, you probably haven't been on one of these in a while, but typically do is if you're not talking, just try to keep either yourself muted or you can hit the soft mute microphone that's on the interface here, and that'll keep yourself muted just so we don't have to have a lot of things go in the background and the typical people like the cork pop. Like, we don't need that all the time. So, yeah, but what's a round table without a good cork pop? All right, let's go ahead and do this. Hello, everybody. We're back with another Bourbon Community Roundtable, and we have got a packed house. The full gang's here tonight, and Fred, it's good to see you again because me and Ryan, we thought we were going to have to kick you off here because you missed like the past 42 of them.
I know. I have not been doing my due diligence here at Bourbon Pursuit, but all the travel and family stuff, and then, I mean, that, and we've had so many issues with daycares. We have a pediatrician who's up for trying to kill her husband. I mean, we just had so many weird.
That's a true story, by the way, everybody.
So much.
I have the
weird
same pediatrician.
Oh, it's just so much weird shit in the past 6 months for us.
I was like, just tell me who that pediatrician is, and I'm gonna make sure we do not go there. I'm just kidding. Don't need to do that.
Federal prison right now, so I don't think that's gonna happen.
You guys can pick them. That's all we can say. It's about as good as your barrel picks.
That's what happens when two bourbon podcasters pick a pediatrician for their kids. You pick out the murderer.
It's just part of the process, you know. It's just like that bad barrel, but you don't want it to be bad. You're like, just keep it in the bunch; it'll be fine. But
that's right.
No, it was a bad barrel. That's what it came down to.
It'll get better eventually.
There's not enough toasting to save that one.
With the double toasting, however, with the port finish, that's where it's at.
Just a gallon of port.
That's right.
Oh man, let's go ahead. Let's kind of kick it off around the table here, so all three of us were here. But Brian from Sippin' Corn, how are you, buddy?
Yeah, doing good. It was good to see Eric in person last weekend, and now we got him on this, so I'm excited for this one with our third wheel from breaking. But Brian was Sipping Corn, and everyone knows where to find me. Thanks for having me on again.
For sure. And he stole my thunder there, but there you go. Eric from Breaking Bourbon, the mystery man, the third wheel, I don't want to say third wheel, the I was like the masked man. I don't know what you want to.
The third leg.
The behind the scenes man, I guess.
There you go,
the secret weapon.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I was brought up from the minor leagues for this episode, so I'm excited to be here.
Well, good deal.
You're doing better than Blake.
As long as your mic works, you'll do okay.
The bar set really low is the problem. Yeah.
Well, there we go. Blake, go ahead and quick intro.
Yep, I'm Blake from Bourboner and Sealbox. Always fun to be here. Always fun to keep the streak alive, no matter how bad that audio quality is. So thanks again.
For sure. Well, let's go ahead and let's dive into it because we've got some really good topics tonight, and one that came out, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and we didn't talk about it between Ryan and I until last week's This Week in Bourbon. But this is the one that I don't know. We've talked about it for God knows how long, either on the roundtable or the podcast in general, about just the sticker craze. And this is probably the one that is the most recent debacle that I remember when this sticker came out and it garnered headline attention from usatoday.com. And I even put out a tweet and I said, is this going to go too far? And lo and behold, not more than, a few months later, you start seeing some more news articles come out. And so here's what it is. I'll just give you the background for anybody that's been hiding under a rock for the past 2 weeks. So the Louisville Bourbon Club, they created a limited edition sticker that was placed on pinhook bourbon bottles. And the sticker pokes fun at Hall of Fame horse racing trainer Bob Baffert, who was suspended from Churchill Downs and the New York Racing Association after his 2021 Kentucky Derby winning horse Medina Spirit failed a drug test. The label reads Bobby's Secret Horsey Stuff, and that's a play on Mike's Secret Stuff from the 96 film Space Jam, and it depicts Baffert holding a syringe. The text next to the depiction of Baffert reads, just let old Uncle Bobby blend you up a batch of that good stuff. However, terms of the settlement included that Cox's and Evergreen Liquors, They have a cease and desist from further production of the bottles, and that all remaining bottles, as well as more than $18,000 received from the bottle sales, be sent to Baffert. Additional terms of this settlement included formal apology letters from the companies be sent to Baffert, along with legal fees he'd incurred, and a donation of $50,000 to go towards 3 thoroughbred racing charities. Now, before we talk about stickers and everything like that, I feel that it would, we have a lawyer on here. I feel we should talk about the legal aspect of this and kind of talking about, there's a lot of conversations that'll come up and saying, if this was in the New Yorker, would this have ever happened? Is this still a play on parody? So, Brian, I'd kind of want to get your thoughts on this from a legal perspective of where did this actually, of course it settled outside of court, but could this have gone further, and what could have gone either way?
Yeah, it's the great way to look at it is parody, and parody is allowed. I mean, you get to make fun of people, and in fact, part of the First Amendment is to allow us to parody people or to make fun of them and do those sorts of things. And the case I remember from law school was Hustler magazine versus Falwell, and they just had some scathing cartoons about Falwell, and they got sued and went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. You get to do this sort of thing, but the reality that it gets to is, could Cox's and could the Bourbon Group fund a defense against someone who has the resources that Baffert does? And that's a reality in all kinds of litigation. And my guess is that here it wasn't going to be worth fighting it, even if you did have a decent defense that you could assert. Maybe you don't win on it, but you've got a defense that you could assert. But do you want to do that? Do you want to spend however many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars it would take to fight Baffert?
Yeah.
But because there was a commercial aspect to it, doesn't that change the First Amendment allowance from being free speech to then kind of a commercial endeavor?
Not always, and just like in the Hustler case, I mean, it's a commercial enterprise there for sure, and it was part of selling those magazines, and that didn't stop the U.S. Supreme Court from allowing that kind of parody.
Yeah, because you watch a show like The Simpsons or something, they do this stuff all the time, or South Park or something.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess I'm just trying to understand how it even got to that point to where I don't know. It just seems like it's. Is there something because they're selling something that makes it like more, I guess, more plausible or more? I'm looking for the right word, but
yeah,
we can tell Ryan did not go to law school. There we go.
I did not go to
that
concept
over
when I get those documents.
Yeah. No, that concept comes into play all sorts of times when when you're using something for a commercial enterprise. Are you trying to make money on it? That is something you do look at in a lot of other things. But the Simpsons are making money too on ad revenue, so that's not the issue here.
But that's media. Like even Hustler, which you could argue is not media, but it is. That's still a form of speech. Like they're creating something. Ford is not outfitting their trucks to look like Alan Jackson or something. Like they would license Alan Jackson to use his name and likeness, and I think that's the difference here. It is that name and likeness is being used, and also like a photographer, so that Baffert probably had rights to that photo, was copied and illustrated, and that's quite a bit different than, say, if I were, when I was editor-in-chief of Bourbon Plus, if I were to take that and put it in a magazine. That's a lot different. Like there's First Amendment organizations that support a magazine, the same as like TV shows, but there's not free speech or speech is not customary in selling whiskey. I mean, it's advertising's there, sure, but like doing parodies is not customary in selling whiskey. So I personally think that's probably why this one kind of stood out. By the way, Pinhook and Caucasus Creek got more advertising out of this than they ever would have, 100 years ago. 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why this one kind of stood out. By the way, Pinhook and Caucasus Creek got more advertising out of this than they ever would have 100 years ago. 100 years ago. So I think that's probably why this one kind of stood out. By the way, Pinhook and Caucasus Creek got more advertising out of this than they ever would have 100 years ago. 100 years ago. So I think that's probably why this one kind of stood out. By the way, Pinhook and Caucasus Creek got more advertising out of this than they ever would have 100 years ago. 100 years ago. So I think that's probably why this one kind of stood out. By the way, Pinhook and Caucasus Creek got more advertising out of this than they ever would have 100 years ago. 100 years ago. So I think that's probably why this one kind of stood out. By the way, Pinhook and Caucasus Creek got more for $50,000. They got way more advertising out of this than if they would have dropped $50,000 in a newspaper. So they probably had that in mind as well when they were fighting it.
Maybe. And I guess the question that I'd have for you, Brian, is that let's say that Cox's and Evergreens, they did want to fight this. Now, if they spent $100,000 in lawyers and litigation fees, I mean, for them, that would basically be money out of their pocket, right? So they actually seems like they come out better by just going ahead and just paying whatever they want just to get this settled. I've never had to go and fight something in court that hard to know that, like, if I lose or if I win, what happens.
Yeah, it's a tough decision. I mean, there's some regular suspects here who do this time and time again, but there are well-funded distilleries that, for example, on trademark, if you are a startup distillery and you get close to the line on anything, you'll get the cease and desist, and you end up changing your name slightly so that you're not, even though if you think you could win, there's no way you can fight those distilleries. And here, there's no way Cox's could fight. That's throwing money away, even if you could win the case. And here, there's issues about defamation for sure. So you're gonna run into that. Which is Baffert a public figure enough that you can say things about him? You're getting into issues like malice against him. I mean, that's a really long, expensive fight that they would be paying for. And here, if you can get out for the 18 plus the 50 and get all the press, I mean, that's a good deal, frankly.
Good to know. Good to know. So there you go. There's advertising and legal advice from Brian.
There you go. Not legal advice.
Okay, true. Not legal advice. Not legal advice. So now that we've kind of got that portion out of the way, I kind of want to look at this, and we can all probably agree that this sticker might have gone a little too far. But I know, Ryan, that you've mentioned when we talked about this, saying, gosh, like when you looked at the Riff Patino sticker, that was probably worse than this one, and this didn't even make it to that level.
Yeah, that's what I was shocked about the whole thing. That I felt like that one was way worse. It had Kevin Ware in a wheelchair on it. It had Katina Powell and all the, just all the debauchery that was going on at the time that university was on a label. And you think, gosh, if you're ever going to defame someone, it's Rick Pitino and the University of Louisville, and it really just got an article about it. That's why I was surprised to see, I guess, Baffert's just, a little bit more aggressive. And Patino probably didn't give a shit, probably didn't even know what happened.
He's probably like, yeah, that was me. That's my bad.
He's got a case of those bottles.
Yeah.
So I guess the question kind of goes is that, should this be the end of stickers? Is this something that we should look at and say, is this taking it too far that we should, band together and say, I think this is probably where we really draw the line? Or is it just a wake-up call for a lot of people to say, you know what, like if you're going to do this, you need to be doing it with good intention because you know what the adverse effects could be, especially for a store.
I think absolutely. I absolutely think that you should have you should be mindful of that. Like we've seen a lot of, I've seen stickers using Batman. I haven't seen anyone using like Mickey Mouse, but I'm telling you, if somebody used Mickey Mouse, Disney would find it and they would come after you. Like, I think you just got to be careful of what trademarks that you use and how you use them, because a lot of that stuff is entity, and everyone can play like social media lawyer and say, well, it's, I bought it, I can do whatever I want with it, blah, 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 blah. But Baffert just proved that that's not the case. And Brian's given the very, giving the definition of what today's legal terms is like whoever has the biggest war chest, is most likely to win. And I don't know, just think about that, when you're making these stickers. They're fun. I mean, I still get a kick out of seeing some of them, but just be careful.
Now, are these bottles?
I think you got to look at sorry, I was gonna say, I think you got to look at like who it's hurting as well. When that first came out with all the Baffert stuff, Pinhook was taking some heat, and they had zero knowledge of it, no clue what was going on, and so I think the distilleries and brands are the ones pushing back because they usually are the first ones that people point to and say, oh, look what they did. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We had nothing to do with this. It was a store. And so, thankfully in this one, Pinhook didn't have to pay anything or be a part of the apology, nothing like that. But I don't know. I mean, I think, it just maybe people should have a little more common sense when it comes to certain things. I don't love stickers, but I'd hate to lose them completely because, there are some that are funny. It's just like, you think through it a little bit, how it can affect the public perception of the brand or distillery you're picking from, and then go from there. But everybody wants to push that line. So,
well, I'll take this since you're technically a retailer. So, we've got a new riff barrel pick coming up that's could be coming from a seal box kind of time or something like that. So let's say we go and do a new riff pick, and all of a sudden Ryan and I would put some sort of, we'll say it not so PC type of sticker on it. It comes back on you, Blake. What kind of action do you take?
We actually go and we fight. I fight the picker. Who is it?
It's a battle royale, like fight to the death.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, there's really nothing I can do. I can be mad at you. I can say we're not going to pick again. I can say, but what am I going to do at the end of the day? So we've always taken the approach. We're not going to put anything on the bottle because that gets into all kinds of other things. And then just you kind of look at it and say, all right, if we're just going to put this in the box, we have to at least somewhat agree with it. We may not be fully agreeable on exactly what the sticker is, but as long as we're not offended by it, we'll do it. But yeah, that's a tough one. It's like you want groups to be able to have their fun, to do whatever they want, but it can reflect poorly on the retailer as well. So, and it sounds like they were the ones that were caught in the crosshair here on the Baffert thing.
So there's a recent case in the shoe world. You see a lot of alterations in shoes, like Nike, Jordans and so forth. Little Nas did something with shoes, and Nike, I believe it was Nike, sued him, and I think they won. But he like added some blood or some material that was like blood in there and was reselling them, and was making the argument that it was his like custom artistic work. So I think that this is an issue that's not just happening in this space, and the manufacturer, I would say, has more of the liability than the retailer, because that's whose face is on the brand. But I don't know. I think that this is an issue that is definitely not going to go away. And at some point, there will be someone who will contest this at a level. And I would say Baffert may even get another parody sticker. He may get another parody sticker with someone with the war chest ready to fight him. And that's what Maker's Mark discovered with their red dripping wax. Everybody kowtowed to them. And then one day, Jose Cuervo had enough money to go to court with them all the way to appeals, and they lost. But I don't think this is the end of we're going to see of stickers in the news, and we're definitely seeing a lot of this outside of the whiskey world.
I don't think you're going to see a lot of people with the war chest that's going to go ahead and take on Bob Baffert. And by the way, even before we got started, my wife said, y'all don't fuck up and say anything stupid that Bob Baffert's going to come after you. So I said, you got it. So make sure we keep it cool.
We'll try our best. But that next new riff sticker is him suing somebody. So
we are a free speech platform here, though, Kenny, and we believe in America.
Not until Bob Baffert sends a cease and desist. No, I don't think so.
I really like Bob. I think
that's by the way, that's defaming him right there by assuming that he would send a cease and desist versus a thank you.
Well, if that happens, you're going to mix the next 5 roundtables. But Eric, you've been a little quiet. I kind of want to get your thoughts on this here too.
It's kind of been the Wild West for stickers for the last couple of years. There isn't a real set way of doing them and how to do them, and where the line is. So it takes a case like this where somebody does something that's a little beyond the PC, pushing, making fun of cartoon characters in movies is one thing, but then, kind of very specifically, on a public figure or something like that. Now you're pushing it a little bit more. So now, now there's a little bit of all right, where is the line? And now we're kind of seeing maybe where the line is a little softly drawn right now. So it's going to take more of these cases. Now there's more eyeballs either way. So you're going to have people maybe doing more of these to try to define that line a little more, push it, or people going against, let's push it the other way. Let's try to prevent these and try to keep these as, PC as possible. Let's keep these fun. Let's not try to go overboard.
Yeah, I'd be interested to even see if, I don't know, you look at groups like 1789B and some other ones that have been around for a while. They've never done stickers. They've never turned around and did it. I think it was one of those things that a lot of people saw the fad and kind of jumped on, which we're part of that train as well. We jumped on the fad and did it for our picks. Personally, I wouldn't mind seeing this kind of taking a slowdown and a turn, because when we look at barrel picks and the way that people are purchasing them, and the way that at least that it seems online on some Facebook groups, is that you dip something in wax, you have a funny sticker, you have an army toy on top, and then all of a sudden people are jumping out of the woodwork for some pick that nobody's ever heard of before. And I would love to be able to see it get back to the point where it's just on the name. It's a 1789B pick, it's a Julio's or Lock and Key pick. It's one of those that have, it carries some weight next to it, and it's just not because it's a funny sticker on the back. But I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that feels that way.
Now, I'm wondering, too, along the same lines, is this pick, is it going to be opposite of what we're hoping it is? Is this pick going to be known as the Ridgewood Reserve, that they took off the shelves, and now if you can find this bottle for sale with this sticker, it's worth some astronomical price? And then that makes groups want to push the envelope that Eric was talking about even more, so that they can have something, sell one bottle and, you make up everything you paid for the pick. And it's like, that's what I'm concerned about, that people rally behind this and it's cool to have that bottle.
I think you're exactly right on that, Brian. And Kenny, I'll push it back to you, because I have not been on the Facebook secondary groups in a bit. But does that, when those stickers are there and the wax is there, is that commanding more bids and a higher price?
Yeah, it's dipped in hot pink wax, or it has something. It should be something where all of a sudden, Bengals fan, like they just put a sticker Joe Burrow on there, and all of a sudden anybody that's a Bengals fan wants the damn bottle. It's not because the whiskey's any good. It's because it has a picture of Joe Burrow on it. Those are just the kind of things that you typically see that people are trying to scoop up, not because it's the whiskey, not because it's who picked it. It's because of the damn sticker.
But I also, we do stickers with our club too, but one of the best stickers we've ever done, one of the funniest ones, was on a brand that nobody really wanted, and it didn't sell the bottle at all. So, there's cases, I guess, both ways, which would totally surprise us, with that pick. We just absolutely love the sticker, but the bottle's just sat.
Interesting. So I guess, another way to kind of look at this and start thinking about where this is going. Do you all think that, not only could it be the end of it, but could we see a slight decline? Could we see people start steering away from it? Only because we look at Four Roses. Four Roses has implemented a no tampering, or what do they call it? No defacing policy. I forget exactly what it's called. But it sounds very harsh the way that they said that. Do you think that you're going to see more distilleries jump on board, and they're going to be like, listen, we just don't want you all to do any of this, and if we find it, then you're out from getting picks? And I know that Four Roses has implemented that already, and they've ousted people already.
Yeah, I guess the question is, if you're a brand, what do you have to gain from these stickers and whatnot? I still think they should be involved. There's these barrel picks for folks are like Super Bowl events. It's a pinnacle in the whiskey journey. To get to go do a barrel pick, and you want to do something that you can remember it by, than just like a little medallion. And two, there's a lot of charities that do barrel picks, and do stickers, raise good money, or for like in memory of people, that have been, passed away and whatnot. And so I, I'd just be curious if you're a brand, what I just don't know what you have to. There's just so much out of your control. It's like once you, I guess, like Pinhook, for instance, got negative publicity for a bit. New Riff did for a bit, but I bet a lot of people probably never heard of Pinhook or New Riff, before that. And so it's like, what
Yeah,
do you
maybe
have
if
to
you're a
lose?
small guy, it probably helps. But if you're already a big established brand, maybe it does hurt it. And you can actually
Yeah.
put those rules into place, because if you're a small brand, I mean, Ryan, if somebody just started, if the whole reason people wanted our brand was to put funny stickers on them, and all of a sudden it started blowing up, would be going, this isn't such a bad thing after all.
Yeah, I mean, and then you have a brand like Rare Character who, basically builds their whole line on, customization, doing stickers for your own bottles and stuff. And so it's like I think they have, they kind of have leveraged the sticker game, to kind of help grow their brand. So I don't know, Kenny,
that's
what
a
do you
good
want?
example, actually. I didn't think about that one before, but Rare Character kind of leveraged the whole sticker waxing culture, and it seems like they've blown up a bit, where I think people do want that customization. So maybe it won't go away. It'll just be people using that to their advantage and saying, like, look, if you wanted more fun, cool stuff, we're here for it.
It's funny. Like I just realized that the Pinhook, the owners of Pinhook, their connection in the horse racing game, that probably went a long way for Baffert being so contested about this. But I'll say, brands better be very careful about how they handle this, because we have seen, as consumers, we've seen prices go up, we've seen allocations get more difficult. It's harder to get barrels. And I just don't think you want to go and like slap people on the wrist or dictate to them that they can't do stickers. I mean, I've never done them, but I don't see why we shouldn't do it just because there's been a few bad eggs. And if you want to say we have the right to approve the sticker, okay, fine. You're still allowing it, but there's ways to do this other than banning them. And I know Barrel has came out and said things like, we are afraid of it violating our TTB, label code. That's factual, that's true. But once it gets outside of their facilities, I don't see why anybody would care, as long as everything has been, inspected after it went out to the retailers, and then the acquisition of the sticker happened outside of the retail store. I don't see why anyone would care. I just think distillers got to be careful, because more and more people are just getting fed up with bourbon, the whole bourbon craze, and they're tired of the hunt. And I just think that this is not another thing that we need to say no to, in the bourbon world.
It's a good idea. And by the way, before we move on to the next subject, I also feel that we should compliment somebody like Old Elk. I know a lot of us actually went out to Old Elk, and they actually have a poster that shows all the stickers that have ever been created for like an Old Elk bottle. So they're embracing the sticker game over there. So I thought that was a different take onto it as well.
And then they also had a box of letters of cease and desist right next to it.
Probably. Yeah, don't put John Deere tractors in there or something like that. I don't know.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on here a little bit. And this is because, we look at every single year, there are going to be some acquisitions that happen. And they're going to take place. And I would say this last few years, or last year, we've already seen a few happen. So Heaven Hill, they acquired Samson and Surrey, and that came with the Few as well as Widow Jane. Pritzker acquired Bardstown Bourbon Company, which also gave a cash infusion to acquire Green River. And Old Smoky Distillery in Gatlinburg, Tennessee was acquired by Apex Partners. And last year, back in 2021, MGP bought Luxco. However, all of these are completely different types of acquisitions and goals. So we'll think about it in a few different angles here. So in terms of being a distiller, a brand, or a family of brands, what do you think makes a good acquisition target? Because all these, we can break them down. Like the Heaven Hill thing, that was probably all because of their tequila line. Pritzker, Bardstown needed a cash infusion. They acquired Green River because it's, of course, more distilling capacity. So we'll kind of just take it from there.
So historically, when you look at an acquisition, a really good large acquisition to study is when Beam bought National Distillers in 1987. They basically just took the brands and then kind of set them off to the side and used their whiskey for Beam and a lot of the stuff that they would do down the road. That's why Old Crow would falter. They would, Old Granddad would just kind of be hovering there. In fact, this is such a common trend in the historically in whiskey that when Maker's Mark was up for sale in 1981, that when they were in talks with Old Fitzgerald, they thought that they were just going to take the stocks of Maker's Mark and get rid of the brand or put it down on the bottom shelf and use their stocks for Old Fitzgerald. So that's why they sold to Hiram Walker versus Old Fitzgerald, who basically made the same offer of $15 million back in 1981, 1982. And, today it's not the same, but it is still the kind of complementary acquisition. You're still seeing companies go after brands that complement their portfolio. And Pernod Ricard has been looking for an anchor, in the American whiskey category, for some time. They've got Rabbit Hole, they've got Smooth Ambler, and they've got Jefferson's, which has kind of become their anchor brand. So it's going to be interesting to see what a lot of these companies do, because you're seeing these brands that do not have the stocks coming out with blend of straights versus straight bourbon. So I really do think you're going to see Pernod Ricard come out and buy a distillery with a lot of stock. I think the next acquisition that we see, it's going to be someone going after someone who has the whiskey, and in terms of the large acquisition, because there's so many parent companies that just don't have the whiskey to put out in all their brands.
Yeah, I'd actually take the counter argument to that, where I think while there are a lot of big companies like that do, they just don't have the stocks. I think there are far less smaller companies that do have stocks, or other companies that do have stocks that don't have the branding. But I think what we'll see is more of like a, somebody like maybe it's MGP or somebody who has stocks, but they need the brand, they need the label, they need the popularity. We've talked a lot before about, why does an MGP just go buy Smoke Wagon? Why don't they just go buy like the National Barrel Company, whoever it may be, where if they got that brand established, they could really increase it, blow it up, and take it more national and international. I think all of those will actually be a little less likely than outside capital. So it won't be as much of the Constellation, Pernod Ricards. I think we'll see more of like the Pritzkers, and just, whether it's a family fund or a true, venture capital, whatever it may be. I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the acquisitions over the next 5 to 7 years than anything else. But that's just more of a hunch, because I feel like a lot of the major brands that we think of, they've got their lineup set. And so it'll be more of people trying to get into the bourbon and whiskey game, if I had to guess.
So Blake, so you think it's going to be more along the lines of looking for the stocks and like who has the capacity versus who has the brand recognition?
No, I think it's who has the brand recognition.
Okay.
So, I think there's plenty of people who are either sitting on a lot of stock, or they know they can get access to it, but they may not have, the brand recognition in the shelf space to get to whatever it may be on those barrels. If you've got 30,000 barrels, but your brands are mediocre at best, I think that's the problem we're seeing more of right now.
No, that makes sense. It makes sense for a lot of brands, especially if you need a more premium price point category with the same stocks that you already have. I mean, that would be the right move to be able to do with something like that. I'll kind of turn over to either Brian or Eric over here. So do you all think that it's going to be something where how important is a brand to actually be a part of an acquisition target versus, I mean, because you look at like something like Old Smoky, like that is a big brand, but they're also a very, very large national brand, or like probably the biggest in regards of tourism around there as well, versus something when you look at a Pritzker with Bardstown and Green River. I mean, that's just production capacity. They look at what's going to happen, years down the line. That's money in the pocket now versus basically just having a brand to rely on.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead, Eric, and I'll follow you.
I think it's definitely, and I can see Fred and Blake's both points, and I think so much of it has to do with capacity right now. Is just everyone is trying to ramp up as fast as possible for this, I don't know, bigger bourbon boom that's coming. I don't know. But, at some point, brands are important. And so that we mentioned Smoke Wagon, like that is a strong, well-known brand that, a bigger company could buy and then kind of leverage and like, all right, what are we going to do with this Smoke Wagon brand? But we have the name and expand it from there. But, going back to the capacity, there's so many craft distilleries out right now. Why aren't all of them getting bought up? So it's the ones that are getting bought up are typically the capacity ones, or, the Blake's Point brand recognition, or maybe somebody buys barrel for their knowledge of blending, something like that.
Well, I mean, I guess that's another kind of question we think about is, I mean, we all have fatigue a little bit. I mean, it seems like there's a new brand, there's a new label on the market every 2 weeks. And our brand's just a dime a dozen, that it doesn't really matter to go and find the brand. I mean, we all know Smoke Wagon, we all know Blue Run, we all know some of these other, Barrel, of course, we all know some of these ones that have a nationally recognized name, but are still independent. I mean, is it one of those things that, are they getting so big at so small that they're becoming, past the value that they could be acquired because they would just be too much?
Well, if I'm MGP, I want to keep those as purchasing from me. I'm not going to buy them as a brand. They're more valuable to me as long as they don't build their own damn distillery. As long as they're beholden to me, I want to keep selling to them. That's my better business model. So I think what makes something attractive is someone who wants to get into Kentucky, like MGP did with Luxco, or you're going to have equity funds come in and start looking at some of the smaller distilleries in Kentucky because they need a foothold in Kentucky if they're going to grow. And then they'll take something, like Neely and, quadruple the size of it. But they need that kind of foothold. So they're going to be looking for brands that maybe don't have a succession plan, or, the next generation of the family is not as into it as the founder thought they were, so might as well sell now. They're going to be looking for those kind of specific issues to find an acquisition target. But I think it's all about finding something in Kentucky that's got a still and that you can go visit, because tourism is going to be the key.
Yeah, I 100%
or maybe
agree,
not
Brian.
a still. Maybe you don't need a still.
Yeah, just a downtown location on 7th Street in Maine. No, okay. But whatnot. But I think that, or having a distillery in Tennessee too, gives you, leverage. I think Tennessee whiskey is really, creating a name for itself, and it's now recognized as quality. There's a lot of good stuff being made down there, and the tour, as the damn moonshine thing. I mean, hell, I was down there in Knoxville, and they were telling me like in the Knoxville area alone, they sell like 100,000 cases of moonshine a year, and I'm like, what the hell,
Nobody's drinking that much moonshine.
It's just all these tourists going to Gatlinburg and the mountain towns, and they love that shit. But
as a regular on the show, Moonshiners, I will tell you that is a culture that is way different than what we're in, and yeah, that is they get so many visitors. It's insane. And also like three doors down, there's like bikinis being sold with the Confederate flag on them. So it's like an entirely different culture.
Yeah. And so I think having a facility is more important than ever, and you can figure the brands out. I mean, Smoke Wagon's a great brand, but I mean, it's still peanuts compared to the major brands that people know. And a big distillery can, if you have the whiskey and quality whiskey, you could build a brand around it. I think eventually, with enough money and enough people, a story or somebody behind it. I think you just need someone with a DSP and capacity, or just a location that you can build off on, build, within its existing infrastructure, and they have land or this and that set up to grow it. But I think, that with the tourism side, Kentucky and Tennessee distilleries are still there. I think investors are still going to run here for the next probably 10 years or so.
Yeah.
There's no end in sight for people wanting to get in the game, and the people coming in trying to start new brands and make it happen. I just think that you brought up this great point, Kenny, of we're fatigued. I mean, every day I get a press release about somebody coming out with a new brand or their new line extension. It just, there's so many brands. There's so much coming out. It's almost like it's becoming like flavored vodka between 2004 and 10. It's crazy right now. And the next acquisition, I really do. The brands are important, but like you're seeing all of this, like people trying to create new styles, new finishes. We're the first to do that. We're the first to do this. You're seeing all of this effort, but the majority of the whiskey is being held by a couple brokers and the large distillers. Jefferson's has some great stock. They have some good whiskey, but their everyday product, in comparison to like some of Beam's everyday stuff or Brown-Forman's everyday stuff, man, it's faltering. It's not on that same level for that everyday pour. And I just think that if Pernod Ricard's going to be in the game and do this right, they either need to go and pony up the money for Wild Turkey or get Four Roses or maybe an argument for Peerless, someone like that. But like, the next 20 years is American whiskey's time. It's not like that company can't afford it. So when we look at the acquisitions, I think Pernod Ricard, and I've said this 2 years in a row, I think Pernod Ricard is the one to really going to make the next. But I think they are the one that's going to try and make the next move. And I think it's one of those three distilleries I just mentioned. And yes, I do believe that Wild Turkey could be bought. I think someone could buy them from Campari.
All right, so those are some hot takes, but here's the thing that I look at, and I look at it from a tech acquisition standpoint. So, and around a tech acquisition and everything that you just mentioned, those are very, very large acquisitions. Like you got to have some deep pockets to be able to buy that amount of stock in regards of stock of the actual inventory, buildings, people, national brand recognition. I mean, all that is a major cash infusion, and that's something that typically when you go through and you make something that big, it's like, okay, now I got to go through and I've got to cut out duplicates in HR and IT and finance and all this other kind of stuff from just a standard workforce kind of task thing. But what about looking at it from a startup capability to say, okay, here's and I think on the tech side, like here's a tech company that's doing something very unique that we could leverage, but they're still young enough that they don't have really a big footprint, so we could buy them quickly and get them off the ground. And that's the same thing that could happen in the whiskey world to say, here's some young brands that are building themselves up, and we can get them in cheap now, and then also, lock them into an X amount of year contract that they're working with the brand and they're doing this and so on and so forth. So do we anticipate that the trend is going to be these massive, large acquisitions, or is there potential where you see smaller brands get scooped up, and instead of, leveraging the farm on buying a Wild Turkey, you buy 30 other small brands?
Yeah,
that was the move. That was a move a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, think of High West and think of some other things.
High West, Woodinville, and High West still went for a lot. But I think that the the small brands that have showed and we're going to get acquired that's happened. They're either going to grow to that next level, or they're going to falter out, or they're going to maintain where they are. But I keep going to this, but I think it's big. I think big is where to go.
I see where your head's at, Kenny, and it makes sense because you can basically just plug in, XYZ brand into your existing infrastructure and really, get their cost of goods down to where they can be extremely profitable, because a lot of startups, costs are insanely high, whereas a established distillery has, really economies of scale that they can really help catapult an existing brand. But I just think there's so much demand for whiskey production, not just for bourbon. I think overseas in Australia and going to be in India and Asia, I think there's just going to be so much contract and distilling and so much stuff that we're never even going to know about and see about that you just need production capability to say, I'm giving you Kentucky bourbon or Tennessee bourbon for, XYZ market, and it's just, I think that's what the play is for the next, for big brand, for these big acquisitions, is capacity and production.
Guys in the bottom row feel like
yeah, capacity. That points back to Turkey. I mean, the size of that damn still, that can fund a lot of expansion in Asia.
Yeah, I think that is a really good point, because we don't even think about, the one of the fastest growing categories we have right now are canned cocktails that are spirits based, and a lot of those use whiskey. So you're not throwing 6-8 year whiskey into a canned cocktail, you're throwing 2-year-old. And so if a lot of 2-year-olds going into these canned cocktails, well, that means it's not aging on. So but that's kind of the secondary question. I think it'll still be the big splashes that we get. I don't think somebody's going to come in and buy up, 12 to 15 smaller regional brands. I think it'll still be the big names that we see out there, but that's just kind of the name of the game in the M&A market in general.
And I think anyone that's throwing around that kind of money, they want an immediate impact. So are they going to buy 5 to 10 craft distilleries and be like, all right, in 10 years, man, this stuff's going to be fantastic. I think they want it to spend their money and get that impact.
Yeah, you're right, because Fred brought it up earlier. Like Woodinville is a great example of that, and seeing how LVMH kind of came in there and they bought that brand before it was really anything big, before they even had a really good national presence, and that was one of those things that they got in early. They probably got it for a good price, and they were able to infuse some cash into it, increase their capacity, increase everything, and be able to make it into a national brand. But that's a heavier lift to be able to try to make that happen 30 times over versus buying it just one time, and they have the infrastructure, as Ryan said. They have everything ready to go, instead of sitting there trying to say, how do we take this from 10 barrels a day to 100 barrels a day?
I think what you'll see with a lot of those smaller brands, the advantageous moves in the space will not be coming from the larger companies. It'll be coming from like the middle tier that are known in other categories. Like here's a couple brands. Altamore Brands, which is an importer that brings in Armagnac, and they imports Foursquare rum. If they could get an American whiskey SKU, they would do well with it, and they would add it to their portfolio. Spirobomb, which is the importer on American record for the Martinique, most of the Martinique rums, as well as the St. Lucian rums, they don't have an American whiskey. And I think that the growth for these smaller brands for acquisitions will not come from the big companies we know. I think that has been exhausted. I think you'll see middle tier companies that a lot of people don't really know about come in and buy stuff. Like Mason Ferran, which owns Plantation Rum. They would be a really good company to come in and buy, a distillery like, I don't know, Kentucky Peerless, or a small one like 291 in Colorado, something like that. Those kinds of companies, I think, could be what would come in to diversify their portfolio to get a little bit of the market share of the American whiskey market, where they own other markets, but they don't even have a player in American whiskey. I think you might see that for the smaller players, but I think the next, for the companies that we know well, it's Four Roses, it's Wild Turkey, it's a spin-off from Sazerac or Heaven Hill. A spin-off, I mean, a brand and the stocks to go with it. There's a lot of chessboard out here right now in American whiskey. And I have no idea who's going to make that next move, but I have a sneaky suspicion that it's going to be in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky.
Well, I kind of like what Drifting Dram said here in the chat. Maybe Wilderness Trail.
Yeah.
Because that's actually not a bad one, knowing their distilling capacity, brand recognition, all that.
It's all good. I mean, they're fantastic there. They've got the stocks, they've got the know-how.
There we go. Maybe we just called it. We'll see. We'll see what the rest of 2022 has in store for us, but that'll do it for this week's roundtable. So, fellas, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. I think we had some good topics, hit a few good things here. All about stickers and acquisitions, two big kind of topics that us bourbon nerds really like to get into. But before we head on out, we'll let you all do one more quick outro. And Eric, we'll start with you down here at the bottom right of my screen.
All right, thanks, guys. Glad to be on again. It's been a long time. For the rest of you guys, if you haven't heard of Breaking Bourbon, you can follow us, breakingbourbon.com, reviews and release calendar, and we have a barrel club too. And on all the socials, the usual places at Breaking Bourbon.
Well, it's good to see you, Eric. Let's make sure it's not another 2 years before you come back on again.
I think it'll all come back, if I'm allowed.
I just want to know what happened with Jordan and Nick. Like, are they both sick? Is this I didn't get the full story because I was having audio issues. So I'm just happy to see Eric today.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Blake.
Yeah, there he goes. Stab me in the front, not the back. Yeah. Well, here, Brian, you go ahead. Wrap it up for us.
Yeah, so Brian was Sipping Corn. Find me at Sipping Corn and Bourbon Justice. And I tell you, seeing Eric this last weekend, that's the reason he's here. We showed him Louisville. We showed him that barrel pick. Shit, must have hit 6 or 7 distilleries, and they were all quick. But it was a fun time. Good to have you here, Eric, and great to have you on the roundtable.
Thanks, Brian.
And Blake, go ahead.
Man, well, I feel like I'm going to say something nice about Eric, too, based on...
Everybody give Eric a compliment, so make sure that he feels... Just give that little confidence booster going.
Yeah, exactly. But no, Blake from Bourboner and Seal Box, always fun. I'll be back next month with a better mic and hopefully, have all those issues resolved. But always glad to be here. Kenny, Fred, Ryan, thanks for having me and enjoyed it.
For sure. As always, this was a great time. I'm so glad that we had a little bit over 100 people on this one on a Sunday night as we're recording this. I know it's not our typical Monday, but...
I mean, we're going up against Game of Thrones. We're going up against Sunday Night Football. I mean, that's great.
Yes. Well, I'm just glad that there's a bunch of bourbon geeks out here like us that can say, you know what, the Bills can wait just another hour and we'll catch the replay in a little bit.
They've already played, Kenny.
Well, it's so much... Well, I don't know. I came down here, started drinking 2 hours ago, so you tell me. All right. Well, that'll do it. So make sure you check out all these guys at all their socials. Make sure you check out Bourbon Pursuit, wherever you get your podcasts. If you do like the show, if you like what we're doing, I know Breaking Bourbon's got a barrel picking club, but so do we at bourbonpursuit.com. You can go check out the barrel picking club link. We all have good friends that we're all picking barrels from, and every once in a while we actually do a collaboration, which will be available on Sealbox here relatively soon for another Old Elk, won't it?
I'm on mute. Yes, I guess we needed to talk about that. I sent that out, but so maybe this next week or so.
There we go. So we
Yeah.
got another old elk in the bag here.
And it's a good one too. It's the I think we've got the cognac we picked, and then
nice.
what I'm calling Kenny, Ryan, and Blake's Blaine delay, which was that 9-year that they're like, just I don't know, go taste some barrels while we wait to take you to the airport. We're like, well, we found a winner. So yeah, that'll be a really good one as well. Yeah.
Was it really 9 years?
Yeah.
It was there.
Yeah, no, we just started looking at barrel heads, and we're like, this whole lot's 9 years old. Let's drill into these.
I couldn't remember how old it was. I do remember we were just walking through, just reading lot codes and seeing a very low number going, I think we should probably see what these ones are all about.
I don't know if they love that idea as much as we did, but it was 9 years old.
Yeah, don't give us a drill and say have fun in the warehouse. I think that'll teach you a lesson. So
Life lessons.
Yes. Well, that'll do it for this week, everybody. I want to say thank you again for tuning in. Make sure you again follow all these guys, follow us, but we'll be back again here in 4 weeks with another roundtable. Until then, cheers, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Pocket sucks.
Toodles.
And we're out. Good job.
For some
Nicely
reason,
done,
Fred,
guys.
I heard
And I'm out.
podcast sucks, and then I realized it was vodka sucks. But I'm like, hey, Fred's going hard. He said podcast sucks.
No, that's the it's another tech issue, Blake.
I know. Apparently, my AirPods are just as bad as my mic. It's
Well, and the pictures
man.
started getting a little fuzzy. So
Yeah, I was about to say you're
mine did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you look like my son's Minecraft. You know, like,
Yeah, you look like you're shooting on a flip phone.
Yeah,
got that razor out.
Yeah.
yeah, par for the course for the past couple months. So just
You have to send 'em
it
in
is
and-
what it
and
is.
That's on.
But yeah, when do we want to release those old elks?
I guess it's talk to Shem. It's between you all. I have no idea.
Okay. I have no skin in the
Shem,
game.
no, it's just like Shem is. He's got so much organization. He knows what the hell's going on back there. So I don't want to. I'm not going to take any responsibility away from him because he knows what the hell's going on. So he's very good about making sure that we're not dumping a bunch of barrels on people at the same exact time and it's being spread out. So
Yeah, that's smart.
He's one hell of a coordinator.
All right, we will. We'll figure that one out then.
that was a good pop, Eric.
That was a good
It's,
pop.
What do you got?
and by the way, he'll.
Oh, there you go.
look at that!
Hey, look at that!
I just
I'll
got
do
it.
that too.
God
It's
damn, how many lines does that have on there?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Is that the 2022 San Francisco Best in Spirit bourbon?
That's right. It's Fred
it-
Minning's
I-
number 3.
I got actually, you know what? You know, we this may make it. You know, this is good.
Which one is that, Fred? Is that the original, the
Finished
toasted
and
French
toasted
oak?
French oak and maple syrup. Yeah.
The breakfast.
I'm
bourbon.
just impressed that Eric has that one because the media bottles haven't gone out. So, Eric, thank you. All these other jokers just out.
He just knows a guy that knows a guy.
Still waiting on mine.
Are we still live here?
Yeah, we're still live.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
Wait,
I
this
just,
is the after
You
the
can
after
still say
show.
The after party.
Live. Yeah.
I couldn't get the wax off during the middle of the show. So I had to
It's
wait.
better than the rare. I mean, okay, so why won't
what
But
Blake's
rare
wax is.
character
There's
put in a pull
they're not
tab?
a pull tab.
Yeah,
Is
No,
rare character not?
no pull tabs on
Hold
rare
on, Eric.
characters.
Does yours? No.
You know what?
No, rare
You know,
characters.
listen,
I've
all
almost
you
lost
guys,
a thumb.
all you guys starting whiskey brands and having whiskey brands, stop fucking using wax. Stop
Never
it.
gonna touch it. Never gonna touch it.
Stop it. You don't need to do wax. I look, Blake, I understand you
Okay,
get to have
there
this
is
really
this-
cool Instagram
you-
photo with your skinny little hands dipping in, going.
Wait, skinny little hands? Come on.
Those aren't my hands. We heard.
He's an NFL tight end.
That's right.
You don't
Nobody
respect
needs
those
wax.
hands.
I will say wax is the fucking worst.
I hate wax. Every time I do a Michter's review, I'm like, oh, I can't get this damn thing over.
It's true.
mean, the Knob Creek 18 year. That wax was thick. Holy shit!
Oh, we just got a sample bottle.
Have a good unwaxing, but no, I already opened this Booker's. So,
but no, this is some good shit. Some good shit, man. This one came out early this year.
You know, as
right?
I like to say, we make the blends that nobody asked for or wanted. So
It's a great line. I love it, Blake.
Oh shit!
Creative.
Nobody knew that they wanted. Right.
Nobody knew that they wanted. Yeah,
That's right. But they actually do.
Exactly. The last one, which is the champagne and triple sec, it turned out really well. It's spicier than expected, but it's an homage to the cocktail. So like, we weren't going to leave out the champagne because triple sec finish was so good. So, yeah, it's a fun thing.
It's a cool concept
to play around with.
Yeah.
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 It sounds like a pain
We
in the
try to
ass.
tell people. It's 100% that.
I'm all about efficiency, and that sounds like none.
There's not too many variables in that, right?
Yeah. That's if you want a lesson in what not to do starting out a spirits brand, I think we also take that cake, as well as the blends that people don't ask for. It's like, here's what not to do: try to get barrels that nobody finishes in from across the seas during a pandemic, and then get a weird shaped glass. But
I know, just do squib juice. That's how you start a brand. That's the safe play.
Squib juice sold well on the sticker side. Speaking of stickers.
Stickers. Always comes back to
I meant
stickers.
to take a picture. I was in a liquor store doing like store visits on my way to Knoxville, and the tide is turning. They had like an MGP bottle, but on it said "Made by Ross and Squibb." I was like, yes, we're breaking through, getting people to not call it MGP anymore.
Ross and Squibb. I'm going to always call it MGP.
Yeah,
Still
I
not
refuse to
wrong.
call it anything.
I have a shot collar, and every time I do it during This Week in Bourbon, Ryan just hits the button.
Well, I just call it Seagram's. Old Seagram
Yeah.
Distillery.
Ryan calls it LDI. He doesn't even do
That's right.
I call it the house that Smooth Ambler built. That's my go-to.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
the house that John Little built. Yeah, I mean, who else was doing MGP before High West and Smooth Ambler?
Well, Templeton was like
That's true.
Without
Bullet.
flavoring.
shit. Bullet
Bullet
basically.
had the 10.
Well,
No.
no, Bullet owned.
We'll have
the
rye.
They owned.
That was all after.
They had rights.
Well, I
to
mean, there was
distill.
like Dick O'Rye. Dick O'Rye was all MGP early on, right?
Yeah, no, it hasn't.
Well,
Bullet
in that
rye hasn't stopped
even
yet.
the Willet, that 4-year green wax, that was all MGP, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember seeing
still
that
do.
right next to the Old Scout or something
Yep.
else, and the Willet was $80 and the other was $40. I'm like,
What John Little did
the
that no
wax.
one else did was like he bragged and talked about it coming from Indiana. Everyone else was like, "Oh, this is our hand-picked
My
barrel."
family recipe. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it would be shit like that, and that's why all the lawsuits happened. But John was proud of it, and he put it out there. But I also think having that extra elevation in West Virginia for even a month or two just made something magical happen with those barrel picks. One of the greatest barrel picks of my lifetime that I've tasted was a Jawbreaker. That was such a good barrel pick. Did you have that?
I've had it once, but I like the name behind it more than anything else because he criticized me on Sealbox recently.
Oh, did it? I mean, I remember seeing those labels years ago.
Yeah, it was
They were
after
in the forums.
Well, I guess we're still live, but
We are.
you've heard the story behind it, right? Where the guy said, "I'll come and break your jaw," and so they came out with a pick called Jawbreaker.
I guess not.
oh, that's what it was?
I thought it was
Yeah.
named after one of those candies.
Yeah, I thought it must have been
No,
a cinnamon atomic fireball flavor.
no, it was like the guy was like threatening to come and break their jaws. Like, oh, we got something for you. We're going to call our pig jawbreaker. Yeah.
All right.
Eric says kneecaps. I'm going to
Yeah.
name my next pick kneecaps.
Exactly.
I like.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that was a story I was told. We'll have to go back to some old Facebook groups, but like,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure those
90%
are all
on that one.
defunct now.
Yeah.
I'll go back
Every-
to straightbourbon.com and
Every good one's gone.
How many barrels a year do you think Squib makes for Bullet Rye?
For Bullet Rye, it's the biggest selling rye whiskey across the globe. So
25 or 30,000 probably.
All of them. Yeah.
It's amazing though how many people still just don't know it. It's
I
Indian
mean,
rye.
but the bullet audience is not a whiskey audience.
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, I mean, when I'm doing, like, when I talk to musicians and, like, backstage and I talk to people out in the music world, like, oh, man, I love Bullet. And I'm like, they just...
you're like, here we go, buddy.
Yeah.
Strap in.
yeah. It's,
How much time
You
you
weren't
got,
ready
buddy?
for this. Get ready for this. No.
they're just...
here's a whiskey lesson you didn't ask for.
That's where Fred goes, well, I love Nickelback, so thanks for coming, guys.
But they're taking the same approach that Jack Daniels did a long time ago. I mean, they're just, like, they're very smart. They're really getting in the right places and, you know, their volume, man. I think Bullet's gonna, they can crack the top 3. You know, they could be if they can get the capacity, you know, they're doing really well. And all the drama they had, no impact on sales.
Yeah.
No fucking impact. It's
So there's
Well, and
a
Tom
brand
is
you buy
nowhere
for-
to be seen.
right.
I mean, where is Tom? I mean, what basement is he in? He's just gone.
He's still collecting checks. So
I mean, it helps that the whiskey's actually pretty damn. I mean, it's not damn good, but it's okay. I mean, it's drinkable. It's perfect. It's exactly what you
decent
need.
price.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
I mean, if you have makers, you know, Beam, maybe Jack Daniels and Bullet sitting on the shelf, I'm assuming 90% of the time you're going to go Bullet. You know, I'd throw makers in there, but
I mean, that's
time
what
or two,
and you just listed the 4 that you see in Europe. I mean, that's those.
Yep.
That's what you see.
yeah. Yeah, I
And
mean,
pretty
I would drink it.
Steel
in
box champagne
In seal box.
I would drink it in a pinch. That's
The
best
French toast seal box.
The bourbon you drink in a pinch. Bullet bourbon.
So Blake, are you ever going to like change up your business model and start selling some of the Bullets and Jack Daniels and stuff like that outside of barrel picks?
No, no.
That was the quickest
will not
response
be the
ever.
case. Yeah. Nah, that's
Yeah, where you make
there
a
are some
dollar
things
a
we may
bottle.
change up, but that will not be the you know, it'll be a cold day in hell before Sealbox sells.
what is like your top seller for like the non-barrel picks?
Chattanooga does really well. New Riff always does well. Smoke Wagon, United, a couple of bozos doing that one, but those all kind of the tops. And it just depends because I mean, like some stuff we can get in as kind of a standard flagship product, and then 3 months go by and we're not able to get more in. So just kind of depends on the time of year and all that.
Yeah, I would
But,
imagine
you
you
know,
wouldn't
the-
go to the Jack
those-
Daniels route only because people aren't going to pay to get a bottle of Jack Daniels shipped unless it's got to be something
Yeah, I
special.
mean-
like
Yeah, it's got to be something different than what you just go get.
But I'm sure we would pick up sales if you know we had a Four Roses single barrel sitting there and somebody's like, oh, I really like that one, but I was going to get this barrel pick anyway. I'll do it. But hey, we're like Chick-fil-A. We ain't opening on Sunday. We're not allowed to do it.
I like that.
I like
By the way, have we done an episode about Arby's coming out with all these spirits? And like, have
So
we
now
done
they
any
got
of
Arby's
that?
has
talked about it.
spirits?
Kenny and I have talked about it.
I don't know that one.
Once.
Yeah,
Well, they had
Arby's-
it's a
they
vodka.
don't.
It's a curly fry flavored vodka or something like
What?
that.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Jeez.
You guys have been drinking.
No.
No.
Actually, I'm going to dump into the tequila now.
Coca-Cola is supposed to be coming out with. They're supposed to be dipping their toe in some whiskey. So
They just did the Jack Daniels
Coca-Cola
collab.
did like a They did like a
Like the
cocktail,
legit Jack Daniels collab. And plus, yeah, they're getting their own stuff too now.
yep.
Jack and Coke.
Well, I mean,
Although
it
on
was
Kitty's
that-
point, I think tequila is going to be what pops next. So
Hey,
We've been saying that for 10 years.
Well, it already
dude, no,
has.
no,
It already has.
No, tequila's
I
popping.
truly,
Yeah, the numbers are there, but
it is.
Tequila's
The numbers
popping,
are
man.
there. It's the next thing to go. Fred's got
What do you mean-
tequila
what do you mean
cures
go?
locked and loaded.
Oh, okay. I was
just
about to say,
to
I was
be
like, because I
the-
think it's already there.
Yeah, no, tequila's
Oh,
there.
to be
It-
the main spirit. Like
I mean, like over
I would
vodka.
say,
Over
bourbon
vodka.
will outpass vodka by 2024. I heard it on this podcast called Bourbon Pursuit. They interviewed
Okay. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah,
Was it
wasn't that
From IWSR.
Brandy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she said it was like 2024. But yeah,
Well,
to the point,
those
where
numbers
tequila
change all the
is-
time.
Tequila is definitely massive, but I think the higher end tequilas will get a much more focus or much bigger focus from like people who are chasing barrel picks right now in the bourbon world.
Yeah, I
my-
think there's some issues with some of the tequila, like with the flavorings and stuff. Like, with bourbon, there's
Which
some.
leads
Holy! By the way, because I did all these rounds with all the liquor stores. I had no idea because now I see it that Casamigos for like a 1.75. It's like $130 or some shit, and it's full of flavors and additives and sugars and all this other kind of stuff. And I was
well,
like,
that's where I
"God
think
damn, are you
people,
serious?"
like the bourbon nerds will get behind it because it's like, I don't want diffusers, I don't want additives, I don't want pure tequila, and so it adds a little bit of label. I don't want to say like
but
snobbery,
the main
but
the main thing is the tequila has the fucking margarita. The margarita is like there's not another cocktail.
You need it
like
for it. Yeah.
it's
you
the
gotta
best.
have
It's
it.
the
I
best
mean, there's-
cocktail ever.
That and
Yeah.
the Paloma are freaking fantastic.
They're amazing, and when you want food, like your family, you're like, do you want Mexican? Do you want Chinese? Do you want pizza? Those are like the three, or hamburgers. In my family anyway, and those are the four quadrants. Those are the quadrants of like going out for like surviving with young children.
And a margarita with a pizza is the best thing ever. I know.
So we go to Mexican because of margaritas.
So when do we do the roundtable tequila pick?
We could probably
next week.
we
I'm
swing
glad
that?
you-
probably get
so,
something
so there
together.
may be some interesting things happening on that front.
Oh my
that
God.
I think
Is it a seal box?
mutual
Tell me
finish
more than a
friend-
month in advance.
Yeah, more than a month to get to Mexico. Come on.
The
Go to
problem is with
Mexico!
so like with the tequilas, I'll fully admit the ones that are premium that I like are the ones that I found out have shit added to them, and the ones that are supposedly like the purest of the pure, I'm like, well, this just tastes like earth, and
Classic fireball drinker.
Yeah, no, really. It's
Well,
like,
no,
how do we
I think that there's with bourbon, there's just this already natural sweetness, and to get that out of tequila, you have to put additives and sugar and color. So I don't know. It's the pure agave stuff. I'm trying to
You
wrap
bristle.
my head around it.
Yeah.
You're killing me, Ryan. I was like, we just did a whole whiskey tasting and doing like reposado and stuff like that. And
I did like a few of those. Yes.
Well,
Change your
we'll
mind.
see. All right, I'm out
I
of
gotta
here.
go to bed.
This was fun. Enjoyed
All
it.
right, Blake.
All right, Blake, be safe
Have a
out
good
there,
night.
man.
All right,
Yeah.
Blake. Just
See ya.
remember that breaking itinerary next time you come up to Louisville.
I mean, I basically give you the same thing. I send you a text like 15 minutes before I'm going to be at the restaurant and say, "Hey, do you want to go to this bar?"
It's like,
Well-
hey, Brian, I just landed in Louisville. What you doing?
I will say,
fair.
even if you give me advance notice, it's still hard. Like I'm sorry I couldn't meet up, Eric. And,
That's right.
and Blake, I just avoid you out of
Don't
principle.
worry, Eric. I've been to Kentucky 12 times in the past year and a half and haven't seen Fred once. So.
He avoids anyone. Who
Actually, no,
records with
you
a flip
did. You
phone.
saw me at Pursuit Palooza.
That is true. I take it
Yeah.
back. I've seen you
Yeah.
once. I have. It's
Blake,
always
he doesn't
good.
even come out with us, so don't feel.
I know I'm doing something right whenever Kenny's like, jeez, Lauren's gonna be mad at me again. Here we go.
Well,
Perfect.
and
That's
Kenny-
She's
good.
gotten used to it now. She's getting used to it now.
Kitty and I had the conversation a little bit, so he knows what's up. A little bit in that regard, spousal stuff.
Always fun.
Everything's fun.
Always fun.
It is.
For
All
sure.
right. Y'all have a good night.
All right,
Good night.
I'm going to go out
Cheers.
too.
Yeah, we can
All
all
right.
quit it from here. So,
See you
cheers,
guys.
everybody. Thank you all for
All right.
tuning in, and we'll
Yep.
see you here in a few weeks.
All right,
See ya.
bye.
Later.